Hi, I'm Anna from AstrallAdyTarot. I'm looking up tarot correspondences today. I have this really handy card which you've probably seen before in one of my latest videos. This is from the Golden Dawn Tarot. This is a 1977 A.G. Mueller edition. Look at the backs, beautiful. But this little chart of the beautiful tree of life helps me study, actually. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we go. I want to remind you that the other day I made a giant tree of life in my living room, and editing that video got me thinking. The reason I'm confused about calling the correspondences meanings of the Hebrew letters is because not all of them match up when I look up literal translations. In fact, upon searching this online, I've come across several translations for these letters, and I'm talking about this letter right here, for instance, which is Aleph. So I'm thinking, what's the deal? You know, the books I have, which actually have been very helpful so far, they don't really mention this, just in a chart, like I said. And I mean, it's the Hebrew alphabet, and maybe I should just stop asking questions about this and accept that what I find in the charts cannot very easily be found that literally in other places, at least online, because I don't really know about, books that would carry this information. Because believe it or not, I do not own a Hebrew dictionary. Anyway, it's perhaps fun to know that both of these topics were requested on Instagram. Someone wanted to see a video about the Tree of Life and the Tarot, so this is part 2 of that, I guess. And someone else asked about the astrological correspondences in tarot. Well, here you go, guys. 2 videos about just that. And since the request about the zodiac signs was Dutchy, I will also try to remember to add in the zodiac signs in Dutch. Shouldn't distract from the video, I think. So let's see. What we have here is, of course, the Rider-Waite-Smith. Here we have the Thoth deck, and this is the Golden Dawn Tarot. Let's see if we can show how they align and where they differ. So as I said, here are the Hebrew letters. And I haven't added the letters on my tree yet. I've been busy. So of course you'll see it's nice to recognize the letters. You'll see that I can recognize them, but actually writing them from memory is still quite difficult. So just to be sure, I had left that to do at a later time with proper reference to avoid mistakes. And I'm talking about the giant tree of life grid I've made in the previous video. Also, I kind of actually want to fix the colors in that tree because they don't really stand out. It's mostly white paper. And actually the idea of having it on my wall is so that it really sticks in my brain and perhaps does something that tarot cards do. The symbolism, the composition, you remember it even without realizing it. And when you come across something like a piece of art, for instance, can be a painting or a statue, can be anything like that. It can remind you of a particular tarot card. At least that happens to me, and I think that probably happens to you too, right? And you don't immediately know why, but that's the kind of memory I'm talking about. Knowing without knowing you know it. It's more like recognizing. And I love it when that happens. So that's the end goal, I guess. Where's that helpful? Oh yeah, okay. Here is that helpful little Tree of Life chart that comes with this deck. And I'm actually going to have to part with this because this deck is now sold. Even though it's a great reference, especially thanks to this, I don't use it. And so I think it should go to someone else, and it will. So that's good. The symbols we're talking about, especially in the last video. Ox, gold, or I still don't exactly know how to pronounce that word. Those references, what do they mean and where are they in the card? I think if we really were supposed to see them in Lady Frida Harris artwork, I actually think that the Emperor and the Star didn't get switched in time, because Zadi is fishhook, and since Zadi is now with the Emperor,
we're talking about this little bit, which is the star, but now this little bit is the Emperor. And if we're looking at Crowley's deck, which is the middle deck here, now hidden by this card, he switched the Emperor and the star. So this is Hey and this is Zadi. And now in Crowley's system, the star is all the way up here with Hey and the Emperor is all the way down here with Zadi. So Zadi, as I said, means fishhook. And since Zadi is now with the Emperor, he should actually have the fishhook or something in the card that reminds us of such a thing. And then the star should have something that reminds us of window, which is what Hey is. But as I said, I think that he made that switch, but it's probably after Lady Frida Harris had already painted these cards, I believe. Either way, it's a little bit strange, you know, because it's funny that some of these symbols I see in other cards much more than in the card it's corresponding to. So let me explain. For instance, we're gonna see all these cards, but I'm just having fun explaining all of this beforehand. For instance, the Lovers. It looks like to me that they have the Chariot's fence, right? Because Ket or Chet, we're also going to talk about pronunciation, which I don't know. It's just, I am guessing at this point, right? But Chet means fence, and that is with the Chariot. But it kind of looks like the Lovers have that fence. And perhaps you could still say that Justice has the sword that is actually supposed to correspond to the Lovers. But it's nice, I think, to go looking for these symbols. So let's do that. Putting this away. All right, so here we have Aleph, and Aleph, of course, means ox. Or now I've committed to it. I'm just going to say it in that manner. Aleph means ox, even if I have doubts about that. But I'm sure someone will be able to help me with that. How about if I do this? Maybe that helps with the glare. Yes, it does. Okay. And this is, of course, the symbol of air. All right, so far we have 3 fools, all with number 0. Okay. Is there an ox in any card? I actually see 2 dogs, but no ox. All right. The card that is numbered 1, the Magician. Or the Magus, of course. So here in the Rider-Waite-Smith, it's a little bit subtle, or you could even say not there, the astrological correspondence or the Hebrew letter. And actually, in this deck, only some of the cards have the Hebrew letter in the artwork. But here you can see if it's not in the artwork, then it's underneath. It's all given to you, right? So that's nice about the Thoth deck. Even though it's important, I think, or nice at least, interesting even, you could even say interesting, to know that some of these cards are different, as I said. So anyway, here we have Beth, and this is Mercury, right? Mercury here. Also, this is fun in case you didn't know that in older decks, and then also this one, I actually didn't even know that about this one. In older decks, the Magician and the Strength card have this type of hat, and I think that is so cool. In this deck, Pamela Coleman Smith made it like a lemniscate in the air, type of ethereal symbol more. But actually it was that very symbol was hidden in the hat. So you can see that here as well. There's a caduceus. Apparently that's how you pronounce that in English. And yeah, I know that Beth means house. And so house actually really reminds me of the houses that we're talking about in astrology. Not really a sign of that, right? Okay, let's keep going. High Priestess. number 2. If you want to know, by the way, all of the paths and where they are in the Tree of Life, please look at my last video, because as I said, I made a giant Tree of Life grid on my wall, and I explain in there where everything is. So I think that is helpful, right? So here we have the priestess, which is the moon. You can see the moon here. We can see the moon here. And then this little symbol here, Hebrew letter, is Gimel. And that means camel. And this is where you can see that. So yeah, you know about astrology, what suffices for me is really the way that the Thoth deck shows it. Some of the cards are astrological symbols, are zodiac signs. Some of the cards are planets. Let's continue. Card number 3, the beautiful Empress. Isn't it nice to see these 3 decks together like that? All right, so the Empress, here we have Hebrew letter Daleth, which means door. I guess this is a door. I mean, I guess. And this is, of course, Venus. And we can see that here in the heart. And here she's actually holding Venus. The Emperor. What I also really love is that, here it is again, the card that I reference every time that I'm going to have to part with. You can recognize in this Golden Dawn tarot deck the exact colors that are in these 32 paths. So here we could see this pale yellow in the Fool. Here we could see this a little bit brighter yellow in the Magician, and then the High Priestess was blue, and then here there's this red, deep red for the Emperor, etc. So that's fun. If you have this deck, yeah, there's a lot of that color symbolism that I really like. So here we go, the Emperor, which is, in this deck, as you can see, it's Zadi, Aries, and Zadi means fishhook. Instead of, Kabbalistically, in this deck, Kabbalistically, is that a word? It is now. Kabbalistically, in this deck, and then also I actually think in this deck as well, the Emperor is on the path of hay, and hay means window. And you can see, I mean, it's a little bit maybe of a stretch, but I do like to use my imagination, as you probably know by now. It kind of looks like this artwork. We are looking at the Emperor, but there is this light that is coming through as if the sun is bursting through a cut glass window. And yeah, that is giving some real powerful energy, isn't it? It's like these shards of light that are a little bit chaotic, but very strong. Yeah, I don't know. I just get inspired by that. We can see the Aries symbols all over these cards, all 3 of these cards. Yeah, I think that's it. Hierophant. God, I really love that Thoth Hierophant. And here we can obviously see that it's Taurus. And this is the letter Vav, or Vav, depending on how you wish to pronounce that. So we can see it's pretty orangey red. What does Vav mean? It means nail, which, you can see here. These are the nails, the 9 nails, aren't they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. Is that correct? 5? Yeah, 9 nails. Actually, in some translations, it's nail or hook. So perhaps this is the hook we're looking at. Possible. And in this card, honestly, I don't really see it. This is terrible. I have to recharge my phone. Ugh. I'm just going to do this one quickly. This is the Lovers. Zayin, I believe is pronounced. Gemini. and Zayin would mean sword. Here is a sword, actually. No sword, no sword, even though I thought there was a sword. Okay, phone is being charged, and this actually can film while being charged, which is great. All right, so we were just done with the lovers, right? Let's look at the chariot. Whoops. The chariot's Hebrew letter is ket, but actually I think it's chet, right? That weird throat, which I think now actually it's kether. Maybe it's not chokma, maybe it's chokma, bina, maybe it's not kesed, maybe it's chesed. Geburah, shouldn't it be? Because we say qabalah, but it's actually qabalah. So maybe Geburah is actually Geburah. And then there's Tiferet. Netzach, probably then. Chod, Yesod, Malkuth. I don't know. I'm just trying to make sense of all of this. Anyway, this is chet. I'm going to choose to say chet. And that actually means fence, right? Yes. And we do not have that anywhere, but we do clearly see, at least in the Thoth, that it is Cancer. See that? Quite interesting. All right. And now you'll see that both of these are numbered 8, which is correct in Kabbalistic forms. And then you see that lust here, but it's still the strength card, right, is actually a number 11. So what happened here? In older decks, the strength card was indeed 11. But then with the Kabbalistic association, like the linking the Kabbalistic tree of life with the tarot, then strength became the 19th path. And you see, according to the Kabbalah and the astrological correspondences, it makes sense because strength is Leo. See, that's Leo, and there's a lion in every single card. And the funny thing is that I, of course, really early on in the game, did that simple numerology to figure out my birth card. I came to number 8, and I was, at the time, only working with the Rider-Waite-Smith system. So I thought, all right, strength. Well, that feels about right. And then, of course, later on, I figured out by studying the MAAGD that strength is actually 11, at least originally, and justice is the 8th card. Now that, of course, both makes sense because there's the lemnisket, right? So actually here as well, you can see the strength would have that hat on in older decks, but here she has the lemnisket above her head, floating above her head, like the magician. But that 8 actually is the perfect balance. So the 8 in itself, especially laying a little bit flatter like this, acts like a balance, acts like the scales that Lady Justice has. I can see why. But then again, there's another thing that can be said for the 11, for the, not the Roman numeral, but the numbers that we use today, that is a 1, 1. So it's really about opposites, about 1 over here and 1 over there. And it's just about finding balance in between those two. In each and every Kabbalistic tree of life in the Book of Thoth, at least, strength corresponds to the letter Teth, which means snake or serpent. It's, of course, Leo, and so that is why it's now 8. That is why it's supposed to be right here. Otherwise, it would be right here on path 22. But justice is there. So now actually other decks also make sense because you see, like I said, according to the Kabbalistic tree of life and according to the astrology, the zodiac signs, that strength being at 8 actually does make sense. I'm not saying it makes necessarily more sense than having strength at 11, like having strength after the Wheel of Fortune card. There's also really something to say for that system. But for instance, in other decks like the Elemental Tarot that I opened in February, the 1st of February, at the time I was surprised that that deck had the Strength card, or the equivalent of the Strength card, at number 8, not realizing that it makes much more sense astrologically to have Strength at 8 because it's Leo. So you see, it's not actually that false to have Strength at 8. There's truly good and bad on each side. Also, something else that's interesting that I really want to incorporate in this video. So what I was saying is that the Fool isn't originally numbered. It's actually the numberless arcana. Only when the Golden Dawn came along, it got the number 0 and so put in front, as in before 1. And that made it so that the Fool was path number 11 above there, because in other decks sometimes it's actually the Magician that just takes the 11th path, and then 12 is the High Priestess, and then 13 is the Empress. It's actually much easier, I think, for a beginner also to it just makes it easier. Just add 10 instead of 11. That's how you can remember it. But you see, if the Fool has no number, then you can actually place it wherever you want it. Sometimes the Fool is actually placed in the 22nd position, which is all the way to the back, the last one. Sometimes the Fool was positioned in between the Judgment and the World card. So there you go. It's different in some decks. That also means that the Magician could be Aleph, etc. It's of course not a major thing, but I thought it was just fun to include as well. Let's keep going. The Hermit. The Hermit is Virgo. Whoops. And this is Yod, means hand. Yeah, we see the hand holding the lantern in every card. Number 10. Wheel of Fortune, or Fortune. Hebrew letter Kaf. And then we have Jupiter. Kaf means fist or palm. I really like all of these actually. Okay, here we go. Adjustment or justice. In both of these decks it's 11, and I really do like this card. Here we have the Alpha and Omega. So this is Lamed, and it means ox goad, or however you pronounce that. It's the tool that you use to in plowing, I think, plowing the land, and then you use that on your ox, something like that. And this really does look like a sword, doesn't it? And this is definitely your sword, and this is a sword. So, but this is Libra. So look, we have 11, and this is 8, as in together with the older decks. This is such a Libra thing, isn't it, to not be able to choose, because they both feel good, and I am number 8, so I am strength and justice. Why not? Yeah, I've decided that I'm both, and I believe that that is a very Libra thing to do. I'm sticking to it. Why not? I can be 2 tarot cards at once. The Hanged Man. Here we have the element of water, elemental sign, and this is Mem, and Mem means water. We can for sure see that here, don't we? Some people think this looks like the ugly tiles of a pool, but actually it's the alchemical tablets. Did I say that correctly? I'm not sure. Maybe it's not alchemical, but yeah. All right. Death. All these decks called it Death, but actually in Marseille it's the Nameless Arcana number 13, but they agree on the number at least. Death, we have Scorpio, which we can see here. And yeah, that's about it. And then we have here, this is Nun, meaning fish. We can see that here. Then I see there's also a eagle and a snake. So that's beautiful. It's transformation, isn't it? Just shedding another skin. This is actually quite old school depiction, with all the dismembered heads and feet and hands on the land. All right, we're at 14, Temperance. Crowley called it art. I kind of like it. I really love both. I love that we can see in all of these cards the mixing. Here we have fire and water, quite literally. Here we have water. Maybe this could be the fire. And here, of course, we have the alchemical symbols, switching colors, stuff like that. I think that's really cool. And here we have the letter Samek, which means prop. Or another word that I don't remember right now, as in prop, as in something that helps you. And somewhere, I said that in the other video, somewhere in my brain it kind of changed to a prop that you use for a ritual. So yeah, something that aids you. It's very alchemical, isn't it? I always love that. There's so much more to it. The devil is Capricorn. Oh, we can see that. That's the horns. And there's the little goat, of course. Capricorn, this is Ayin, meaning eye. I guess here with the pentacle being the lower part is right where his third eye should be. And if you're thinking, wow, this middle one looks like a giant male part, then you're right. Actually, this is also kind of phallic, isn't it? Let's keep going. The Tower. The Tower is the letter Pe, which means mouth. We can see that right here. I kind of think that these lightning bolts, it's like the sky opening, right? So that could be the mouth of God. Something like that is what I made out of it. And this is, of course, Mars. All right, next one, the star, which is supposed to be Zadi, Aquarius. You can definitely see that, right? But in this deck, it's Hay, all the way up there where the Emperor is. This is the goddess Nuit, and Hay means window, but Zadi means fishhook. And there's no window or fishhook in any of these cards. Actually, this is pretty trippy because I could have sworn that there was a fishhook depicted in the Thoth deck, but there is not. All right? I've checked. Even in other decks. I guess maybe that's just a power of suggestion or my imagination reading up on fishhook and all of that stuff around it. There is no fishhook. There's no fishhook in the star card. There's no fishhook in the Emperor card. No fishhook anywhere. But the goddess Nuit's body shape sure does look like a fishhook, is reminiscent of a fishhook. So maybe that's just what it is. Oh, the moon. All of these cards are so beautiful, aren't they? Okay, the moon is Pisces, and this is Kaf, meaning the head, or actually the back of the head. And you can see that even in the symbol, it kind of looks like the back of the head, but it also means ear, although that translation is not often used. It's really the back of the head. Okay, next. We just saw the Cosmic Mother, now we see the Cosmic Father, the Sun. This is the symbol of the sun, and this is, of course, Resh, or Resh, or resh. Not sure how to say that. I hear a lot of people say resh, but maybe it's resh. Anyway, resh means head. And here, look at all these zodiac signs. It's the whole belt. Judgment, or eon or aeon. I like to say aeon. Sounds better to me, but I'm not an native English speaker, so I don't really know about that. Anyway, we all agree that judgment is number 20. And here we can see in both of these cards the letter Shin incorporated into the artwork. And here we have the symbol for fire, and Shin means tooth. And yeah, I kind of feel that here with this pose. That reminds me of tooth. And here we have Nuit again. She's like that dome of stars. When you look up from our tiny little planet up in the sky and you can see the stars, it really does feel like a dome. I think that's where that came from, the protective stars around the firmament, in the firmament around our planet. Beautiful, isn't it? Okay, here we are. The universe has Saturn and it's Tau. I don't think I'll forget that anymore. So Tau means the equal armed cross. I love all of these cards. The World card usually is just so beautiful, isn't it? Yes, okay. So there is one thing apart from the... Here we go, take my book. Apart from the Dutch zodiac signs that I forgot to name, but I just want to share it with you anyway. And I'm going to use the thought for that, okay? Real quick, just because it's such a treat. All right, the titles of these cards. Because I feel every card in the Thoth deck or the Hermetic Tarot has more than one title, and I'm so into that. Okay, I just want to use it in my tarot practice, really. The Fool, the Spirit of Ether. The Magician, the Magus of Power. The High Priestess, the Princess of the Silver Star. The Empress, the Daughter of the Mighty One. The Emperor, the Son of the Morning, Chief amongst the Mighty. The Hierophant, the Magus of the Eternal. The Lovers, the Children of the Voice, the Oracle of the Mighty Gods. The Chariot, the Child of the Powers of the Waters, the Lord of the Triumph of Light. The Daughter of the Flaming Sword. The Prophet of the Eternal, the Magus of the Voice of Power. The Lord of the Forces of Life. The Daughter of the Lords of Truth, Ruler of the Balance. The Spirit of the Mighty Waters. See how water makes sense for the Hanged One? Next page. All of this I wrote in my little book, so that's very handy. Death, the Child of the Great Transformers, the Lord of the Gate of Death. The Daughter of the Reconcilers, the Bringer Forth of Life. The Lord of the Gates of Matter, the Child of the Forces of Time. Okay, all of my cards fell. Here we go. We have the Tower, the Lord of the Hosts of the Mighty. The Star, the Daughter of the Firmament. That's so beautiful. The Dweller between the Waters. The Ruler of Flux and Reflux, the Child of the Sons of the Mighty. The Lord of the Fire of the World. The Spirit of the Primal Fire. The Spirits of the Primal Fire. And then here we have the Great One of the Night of Time. I think that's it. Thank you so much. Please remember to look in the description where I have undoubtedly linked the video about the Tree of Life grid that I've made. And I know the proportions aren't all that because it's actually supposed to be sacred geometry, or at least geometry. But hey, I did my best and that's it. And I'm gonna say bye to you right now.
I hope that was as interesting for you as it was for me. Yeah, I'm really learning a lot right now, reading a lot. Every so often I kind of have to stop and go back to make sure I understand what I have just learned, because sometimes I also feel some of the things that I come across need some extra explanation. And I'm just exploring here. So one last thing I wanted to say, if you have a great book for me to read, apart from, you know, all the Thoth stuff, which is, as we've seen, slightly different, and we knew that, and apart from Qabalistic Tarot by Robert Wang, just let me know. I want to know. And if it's in PDF form on the internet, even better. Okay, everyone, that's it. And thank you so much. I will see you later.